friends, and welcome back to Quarantined and Sewing with Julie, and today we are accomplishing a special project that you may have seen floating around the internet, and that is the completion and donation of cloth mask covers. The purpose of a cloth mask cover is to cover an existing N95 mask, which is a hospital-grade mask used for our medical professionals. I'd like to encourage all Rome School faculty, staff, and students, and anyone else interested to dust off your sewing skills and come along with me. I'm going to detail some easy to follow steps so we can all come together as a community and make our cloth mask covers for donation. All right, friends, so these are the tools that we need for our mask cover project. We need 2 pieces of a tightly woven fabric. You need an outer piece and an inner piece. The way that you can tell if your fabric is tightly woven is if you hold it up to the light, you shouldn't be able to see light through it. So you need 2 pieces of woven fabric. You need some sort of measuring tool. So it could be a ruler or it could be your measuring tape. You could benefit from using straight pins. You need some kind of cutting device. So it could be fabric scissors or it could just be craft scissors. And you need some corded elastic or flat elastic. This is going to go around the ear. All right. Step 1 is your 2 pieces of mask fabric need to be cut down to 9 inches by 8 inches. The 9 inches is across the face. It could range anywhere from 9 to 10 inches for that length for an adult mask cover, not a child mask cover, that's smaller. And then your length of mask, the height of the mask is going to be 8 inches, and we're going to end up pleating that down in the end. This is where your elastic is going to go for your ear. Your elastic piece should be about 8 inches long, and you need 2 of those, and those are going to go right along the edge, and that goes around the ear. So once I have my 2 pieces of fabric cut down to that 9 inches or 10 inches by 8 inches, I'm going to pin my fabric together. And I want to do right sides together. So this is the right side or the correct side of fabric, and this, the back side, is the wrong side. So I'm going to put my frozen side down. And I'm going to pin around the edge, just so it doesn't move. Pin my corners, pin my corners. I'm going to pin along my long edges. So here, here. And on my long edge here, I'm going to leave a gap for myself that's about 2 inches. If you've made a pillow before, it's very similar to making a pillow. You need a hole that you can flip everything right side out through, and 2 inches is a great amount. And my little trick for making sure that I leave that hole is I do a double pin. So the double pin just gives me an indication that I need to stop sewing there so I can flip everything through that hole. The next thing that I'm going to do is take this to the machine, and I'm going to stitch up and pivot, and then I'm going to insert my elastic into my fabric, and I'm going to stitch over that elastic and back stitch, and then I'm going to stitch all the way down, stitch over my elastic, and I'm going to pivot at the corner. So it's important to pivot at these corners so you get a nice tight point. I'm going to sew all the way around, and then I'm going to sew back up to this and leave this open. Remember, that's where we're turning everything through. So let me go ahead and get my machine out. My seam allowance is 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch on a sewing machine is the edge of the presser foot. So I'm going to line up the very edge of my fabric with the edge of the presser foot, and I'm going to place the presser foot down. Notice how I'm starting at the double pin, and this just allows me to leave that space open. That's the place that I'm going to turn through. Put my needle down into my fabric, and then press on my foot pedal. Back stitch when you start to create that lock. Stitch all the way to your corner. I'm going to go another couple stitches. Boop. There we go. And with my needle down in my fabric, I'm going to lift my presser foot up and turn. And that gets that really nice point. That's my pivot. Kind of like when you're playing basketball and you leave a foot down. You can do a pivot turn so you don't take an extra step. So we're going to leave our needle down in our fabric, lift our presser foot, turn our fabric, and then keep sewing. once I've sewn a little bit, I'm actually going to leave my needle down in my fabric, and this is where I'm going to place my elastic. So this is the tricky step. I left my needle down in my fabric. I'm going to lift up my presser foot, and I'm going to pop that elastic inside. So remember, it needs to be on the inside of the fabric so that when you flip everything inside, right side out, that it's actually on the outside. So I've gone ahead and fed my elastic into the fabric. I have a little bit over here that I can hold on to so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to put my presser foot back down. And then I'm going to stitch over top. Now, I'm not just going to do that once. I'm going to do that a couple times just to make sure that that elastic is anchored in and doesn't pop back out. So a couple times, and then I'm going to keep stitching. Make sure the edges of your fabric are lined up. I'm going to stitch all the way back down. And then I'm going to recover that other piece of elastic because I want to make sure that it's right there. Stitch all the way down. All right, so now my other piece of elastic is lined up here. It's about 1.5 inches away from the edge. You can just eyeball it. It doesn't need to be super exact. All right, and now I'm going to make sure that my needle is down in my fabric, raise my presser foot up, get my elastic underneath there. And the reason I did that is this corded elastic, as my presser foot keeps getting closer, it just keeps pushing that elastic back. So I want to make sure my presser foot is up, feed it right underneath so it doesn't have a place to go. And then I'm going to hold onto it with my finger and stitch over it. And back stitch over it, back stitch, and then keep going. All right, so I'm going to get all the way to my corner. And with my needle down in my fabric, lift my presser foot and pivot. Okay, I'm at another short side where I'm going to insert elastic. So again, needle down, lift my presser foot, pivot my fabric, and then stitch about 1.5 inches. And there I go. I'm ready for my elastic again on this side. So end with my needle down, lift my presser foot, insert my corded elastic into my fabric. Lower my presser foot. I'm going to hold on to the elastic right there and stitch, back stitch, stitch, back stitch, and stitch. And then keep sewing down to the end. About 1.5 inches away. And I'm going to pull it around. Remember, lift your presser foot up so that you can get the elastic right under there. Otherwise, it's going to keep pushing it away. All right, and then stitch, back, stitch. All right, and then sew to my corner. Raise my presser foot, pivot, and then I'm going to stitch all the way to that double pin. Okay, back stitch, and there you have it. And my last step is I'm going to clip these corners before I turn it inside out. So when you clip the corners, you're just clipping that excess fabric so that you can get a nice point right there. So clip, clip. Okay. Now that my corners are clipped, I'm going to turn it right side out. Push everything through. Make sure that you push all the corners out since you just did a great job clipping everything. All right. You can press this. If you don't have an iron at home, you can skip that step. It's not super necessary. We are going to go back in and stitch all the way around the edge, and then we're going to pleat this down. So I'm going to close up this hole. I'm going to pin it so that it stays closed. Right there. Okay, and then as I'm sewing this on the sewing machine, I am going to pleat this down. And it's really just a couple pleats. It doesn't need to be that dramatic. So that looks great. This pleating allows it to shape around the mask itself, the N95. And I want all my pleats to go in the same direction. All right, so a pleat is just folding over the fabric just a little bit. All right, and I'm just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be super exact, super precise. Okay, now I'm going to get out my machine and I'm going to stitch all along the edge. So I'm just sewing it right along the edge. I can match up the edge of my fabric with the inside edge of the presser foot, and you're stitching all the way around. When you get to the corner, leave your needle down, lift your presser foot, and pivot. We're going to stitch over the elastic some more. We're going to make sure that these pleats are down. Keep sewing. All the way to the corner. Needle down, presser foot up. This stitch is just going to let everything lie nice and flat in your mask. It's also going to close up the hole that we left open. Last and final step, pull your pins out. Trim any extra threads you have. There you have it, a cloth cover for an N95 mask. From our family to yours, we just wanted to say that we hope you're staying safe, practicing great social distancing, and letting you know that we're thinking about you. Say bye-bye, peeps. Do you want to sing a song?
Nope.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, sing a song.
Da, 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 da. Take picture of us.
1, 2, 3.